Do you ever hear information so contrary to your worldview that it's hard to digest? Do you ever hear things that make you go, la 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 la? If you do, you might be suffering from cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is a phenomena whereby we hear things that we just can't accept, such as, do you know what? I think status quo were really innovative. And I suppose one of the things that interests me about cognitive dissonance is that it's a different way of looking at the differences between us and them. For instance, in the world of faith, we often look at believers and non-believers. And I think maybe that's not the best way to do it, because if we look at it in terms of cognitive dissonance, what we're likely to find is that we have people in the category of believers who are good at dealing with cognitive dissonance, and people in the category of non-believers who are also good at dealing with cognitive dissonance. Likewise, we'll have people in the category of believers who suffer from cognitive dissonance quite a lot, and people in the category of non-believers who suffer from cognitive dissonance quite a lot. For instance, if you are a believer, and if you are a kind of believer who is what's called a young Earth creationist, who believes that the Earth is 6,000 years old, or thereabouts, and if someone were to come up to you and say, well, you don't have to worry about this whole heaven Jesus arriving back thing, because in about 2 billion years the sun will start to expand, and will eventually engulf the Earth, destroying all life on it. You might think, la 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 la. That violates my worldview. I'm not going to accept any of that. Likewise, if you're someone who doesn't believe that there is a God who interferes in the world, and someone comes up to you and says, do you know what? I used to have a peanut allergy so severe, if I ate a peanut, I would simply die. And I prayed for that peanut allergy to go away, and then I had Reese's peanut butter cups. They are yum. You might think, la 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 la. I cannot accept that. Your allergy must have vanished for some other reason. You are suffering from cognitive dissonance. Now, I think what's interesting about this is that here you have a case where you have people who are needing to be sure, maybe rather than needing to be right. And I think we get this in all walks of life, and in all kinds of subjects, in all kinds of different areas. But I think if we took the people who are maybe more open and to receiving new kinds of information and trying to adapt that into their worldview, that we would find that actually we would group people differently. And it wouldn't be this thing of believers versus non-believers. It would be people who are more and less open to other ideas. Just an idea. Seems like maybe an interesting way to think about things rather than the traditional, all Christians are alike, all non-Christians are alike, all Muslims are alike, all Jews are alike. It's ridiculous. I think there are other ways of looking at us, and perhaps by looking at this idea of cognitive dissonance and saying, when something comes that rocks your world, what do? And maybe actually we could form bonds between different kind of belief systems based on our capacity or lack of capacity to deal with cognitive dissonance. La 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 la. Just a thought.